Hello, everyone. Welcome to the State of Today's Family webinar. We are so happy that you're here. My name is Joe Jensen. I'm the Senior Vice President here at Barna. On behalf of the Barna team, I just want to say thank you for showing up. We know as leaders, you have a lot going on. And so the fact that you took an hour out of your day, out of your week, to really dive into this new research and to learn how you as a leader, as a pastor, as a practitioner can understand how families are doing today so you can minister to them more effectively. It says a lot. It says a lot about your leadership and about your commitment to help families flourish today. We have a great program in store for you today, and it's very simple. We are going to share some new research with you. We're so excited to be launching today, November 12th, some brand new research that we've done. And we're excited to be able to share that with you. And then we're going to hear from a great panel of experts, and I'm going to introduce them just a little bit later in our program. But first, just to kind of get us warmed up, I really want to get us going in the chat, start to interact, get to know each other. So if you could introduce yourself, just real quick, name, maybe the city and state you reside in or you're calling in from today, in the church and organization that you represent. And then answer this one question, and you can put this directly into the chat right after your introduction. If you could just choose one word, if you could describe the state of today's family in one word, what would it be? So I know this is hard, right? Because you got to limit this down into one word. And there's probably many words that you could choose, but let's just choose one. If you could just choose one to describe the state of today's family, what would it be? So put that in the chat along with your introduction, because we'd love to get to know you. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these come in. So yeah, first of all, we got some people from, I'm just kind of looking at New York. We got some Canadian already in the house. That's good. A lot of East Coasters. I'm wondering where our Westerners or our West Coast people are. We got some, some from Texas. I'm calling in from Kansas City today. So yeah, really great to have everyone here. This is what I love about Barna webinars is we get to meet people from all over the world, all over the country. So it looks like there's just tons of people from all over the place. Just want to thank you for what you do. But again, if you haven't already done this, what's one word that you would use to describe the state of today's family? I saw a few kind of busy words in there, lots of words busy to describe the family today. And a lot of that busyness is leading to overwhelm and some anxiety and some mental health. There's some mental health implications there too, which we'll talk about. But it looks like busy, distracted are some of the big kind of themes I'm seeing in the chat. So again, welcome. If you're just making your way in, my name is Joe Jensen. I work here at Barna. I work with a great team. And I actually, part of this project is we not only have a chance to do this at Barna, but we've had a chance to lock arms and partner with some amazing organizations, as you can see here on the screen. About a year and a half ago, we all came together and we were dreaming of a big research project where we could tell the story of families today, and help leaders like you understand what's going on with marriages, with singles, with blended families, young and old, and everyone in between. We wanted to understand so that we could lead better. And it's really great to see this project finally come to fruition and be launched today. And we couldn't have done this without our great partners. So you can check out more. We're going to put a link in the chat where you can click on that and find out more about this initiative and about our partners. And like I've said, we are launching today, November 12th, a brand new report. So David Kinnaman, CEO of Barna, is going to come on in just a little bit. He's going to give you kind of a snapshot and an overview of some of the big themes in the research, but we can't in 1 hour cover everything, which is why we're excited to offer this great report where you can go deeper in a lot of these themes and topics and insights. So we want to encourage you to go by the report. You can either scan the QR code on the screen, or you can click on the link that we're going to provide in the chat. And by the way, today we are offering a very special webinar 20 discount. So you can put in that code and you can get a special 20% discount for showing up today. That's our gift to you and a way of saying thanks for being here. And that promo code is going to expire. So don't wait too long, okay? That'll only be active just for a few short days. but be sure to take advantage of that special promo. So I'm going to pray for us because we are going to hear some really great and hopeful news. We're going to, I think, also hear some challenging insights from David and the rest of our panel today. And I think there's really nothing else that we can do at this point than just pray for God's wisdom, for his guidance to help us be able to see these insights and be able to have the wisdom to be able to apply them in our ministry context. So let me pray, and then I'm going to hand things over to David Kinnaman. Father God, I'm just thankful for these leaders here today. I'm thankful for the work and the ministry, the transformation that is happening through the ministries represented here in this webinar. I just pray for boldness, for courage, for discernment, for wisdom and insights. Lord, this is a tough time to lead in this world today. There's so many fast-moving parts. Sometimes it just seems like we're just trying to keep up. I just pray that we can still our hearts for the next few moments so you can show us what you want us to see when it comes to today's family. Father, I pray for the next few moments. Be with us, guide us, and direct us. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Well, I'm going to hand things over to David Kinnaman. If for those of you that don't know David, David's the CEO of Barna and my friend and ministry partner as well. So, David, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Joe, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We are very excited about this great new study alongside our partners. So let's dive in. I want to share my screen and give you an overview of what we're learning in the research. So today's families, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the research and some of the things that we've been learning. I've got a number of different trends and things to talk through. One of the highlights here is that this is a very broad, comprehensive study. The report itself actually has all of this data and quite a bit more. So I'm going to hit just some highlights today. But I want to start with this question to you all is family changing or is it not changing? And I think we can make an argument actually for both sides of that question. I want to actually start with my comments here that families are changing, but not as much as you might think. And I want to show you sort of the slow social changes that we have been observing in social research. So first, we could look at the one-parent household trend. Clearly the state of American families has changed over the last 50 or so years. I'm going to show you a data slide here in a minute that shows 70 years of change. But you'll notice that while there has been a lot of changes, there has not been maybe as many changes as we think. So you can see about 1/4 of all families with children are one-parent households, and that has been relatively stable for many decades. Here's another look at some of the stability. There is change here, but also a lot of stability. Again, you'll notice that as we look back over 70 years, you can see that back in 1950, the vast majority of men were married at 68%. The vast majority of women were married. But even at that time, you had about 1/4 of all men and about 20% of all women who were not married, who had not been married at all. Divorce was relatively uncommon, those who had ever experienced a divorce. And again, you can kind of see, I'm going to just kind of talk about the fact that, part of my observation about this data is that the families have always been very diverse. We just didn't have the tools to understand that. And I'm going to just map in here my marriage. This is my late wife Jill and me on our wedding day, December 29th, 1995, and just a sweet picture of Jill and me back in the old days. But you'll notice that I put this on purpose, like at that particular time, what my expectation was that we all just sort of got married and we all had kids at about that same time of life. And so you look at this picture, it's a very sweet picture, brings back lots of memories. And that's my experience, was that I didn't know a lot of other friends who didn't get married or who were in single parent, relationships, or who would hope to be married and not be married. And so again, this argument that things have actually been changing, but changing much more slowly than I think sometimes we give it credit for. This is social change takes a long time to play itself out. Now that leads us to our current sort of moment where we look at sort of what's happening. And you can see here, this is a pie chart that looks at where are people today. And you've got 46%, less than half of all Americans who are married. That is a big significant change from 70 years ago, but this has been a slow and steady change, and sort of family patterns are settling into a new normal is the key here. You can see 10% are currently divorced, 18%, about one in every six have ever been divorced. So sometimes people talk about the divorce rate, all marriages, half of all marriages end in divorce. That's not actually quite accurate. But you can see a good picture. Never married is 39%, about two in every five. Widowed, that's my story today, 5%. My wife Jill passed away in 2020, as some of you may know. And so I've been a widower, a single person in my middle years, and so that's been part of my experience. So here's three things that I think are changing that help us to understand the experience of family. So family has not changed as much as I believe our experience of family has changed. As I was pointing out, like I have friends that were singles at my wedding ceremony who are still single today. I have friends who got married and who got divorced, and so the experience is changing because we're more aware of these different experiences. So number one, the digital context, the rise of smartphones and social media and always on connectivity has shifted the proximity positively and negatively to each other and to the wider world. So this is changing parenting. It's changing our expectations. It's changing our access to pornography. It's changing our connections to other people. It's changing the way our kids are being discipled. Number two, we're more aware of the diversity of family experiences and their needs. That's being portrayed in art and entertainment, and we see it in real life. So I think that's a good, healthy part of what's happened over the last several decades, is that churches have largely responded to some of those changes in family structures. Number three, there's a very therapeutically informed generation. We have a lot of language for mental health and well-being, different categories, different ways of talking about that. That's a huge new shift that I think is affecting family. Now, part of my job today is just give you an overview, a kind of sense of what's happening in the report, because families are quite different and people, of course, go through stages of life. The report itself and some of the comments I'll make today are broken into these different groups. So we've got young adulthood and middle adulthood, a late adulthood years, and then we've got sort of different categories of marriage and parenting. And again, just to give you a sense of what's in the report, we won't talk about this in great detail right now, but you can see here's young adulthood. This is the percentage of each particular segment of our society: young adulthood, middle adulthood, late adulthood, broken down by family type. And you can see married parents in young adulthood are easily the most likely to attend a church service. And you can see that those who are singles in late adulthood are some of the least likely to attend a church service. So it's kind of an interesting map just to give you some perspective. And again, one of the key findings from the research is that churches work really well for traditional families, but they don't work as well for families that are not as conventional. So do church leaders understand today's families? The vast majority of people say, about half, I should say that they do, that pastors understand the experiences of blended or non-traditional families, but 27%, which is a pretty big number, say no, and 23% say they're not sure. What's interesting is as we look at the experiences of different kinds of parents, you can see that married dads are most likely to say that their pastor addresses the challenges family face. You can see married moms are least likely to say that. Single moms are also lower. The single moms are lowest on these different questions. 54% of single moms say pastors understand our experiences. Only 47% of single moms say our pastor understands the experiences I have in parenting. This is largely because pastors are married men with children. So there's some real questions of understanding that experience of a woman, of a single mom. You can see the same pattern here with married dads feel most supported for family faith formation. So this is a really important thing. Do church leaders understand today's families? The answer is most people say they don't, and most single moms especially do not. So this just gives you a bit more reason, a challenge for us to be able to connect with the hearts of people who are in our churches. Okay, so what do people want from family today? This is an important set of findings here as we talk about young people especially, and their hope for marriage. There's a lot of evidence of delayed marriage. We're going to show you that in just a minute. But when thinking about marriage, children, or other dynamics, or any of the following true of you personally, I have a desire to be married one day. And you can see that 78% of Gen Zers in our society say that they're interested in being married at some point. So there still is a hope for marriage. There is a positive picture for marriage for Gen Zers and millennials. This is just among those who are unmarried. But notice that, again, this is like an interesting set of data because it proves the point we were talking about at the beginning, that families are changing, attitudes are changing, but maybe not as quickly as we might think. So younger generations, Gen Zers in this case, who are 25 and under, are less likely to assert some of the traditional views of marriage and parenting. So you can see you're only 81%. It's still a vast majority, but it is much lower than older generations are saying they believe in the value of marriage. Again, you can see the stair step from 96% of all elders and 92% of boomers and 90% of Gen Xers and 85% of millennials and 81% of Gen Zers. And notice here, like, I believe marriage is important for raising children in a stable environment. Quite a significant shift here from 9 out of 10 elders, 3 out of 4 sort of the middle age generations, and only 2 out of 3 Gen Zers. Again, it's still positively inclined towards that marriage-minded environment, but it's not the primary way that young people think that children, it's not the only way that young people think that children should be raised. I believe you can have a fulfilling life without children. You can see Gen Zers are also more likely to say that. Now, I do think this is one of the next slide here is, I think, one of the most significant social changes that is often misunderstood. We know this is true, but people have been delaying the age of their first marriage over the course of the last 70 years. And this has been an area of social change. And the reason why this is so important is that it means that the experience of being in your late teens and early 20s is very different. So when I was married in 1995, that expectation that you would find your spouse at college or in early life, and then you'd get married and you'd have kids and you'd sort of go through the normal conventional steps. And what is happening for millennials and Gen Z is that because they are traumatized by divorce, because they have their own sets of questions about the kind of life that they want to live, the dating market has changed. There is a real sense in which they push back that desire to be married to a later date. So this is a very significant trend, and it is one of the things that is redefining what it means to be a 20-something today. All right, so let's hit just a few more highlights here, and then we're going to go to some panel and some other discussions to really unpack the implications of this research. But parenting, let's talk just for a few minutes about parenting. So raising kids is challenging, and there's a lot to celebrate. What we find here in the research is that most people have experienced being a parent. This is the percentage of all segments of our society. You can see 61% of all US adults have experienced being a parent at some point. You can see on the far right, we're looking at the experience of sort of based on faith. And you can see 70% of practicing Christians have been a parent, 64% of non-practicing Christians, they identify as Christian, but they're not very active. And then 51% of non-believers, non-Christians, have been a parent. So the majority of all religious segments have been a parent. You can see 78% of elders, 2/3 of boomers, 7 out of 10 Gen Xers, and 61% of millennials have been a parent. Simply because of age, Gen Zers are least likely to have been a parent yet. Again, they're 25 and under. So about a quarter of all Gen Zers today are a parent. Now, here's another really interesting set of findings. Again, pretty detailed, but let's just spend a minute talking about this. You can see here, this is the sort of the different kind of marital status of parents across demographics. So if you have children under the age of 18, you can see that 46% of those parent households are in their first marriage, 14% are in a second or subsequent marriage, 6% are in a single parent and divorced, 33% are a single parent and never married, and 2% are a single parent and widowed. You can see boomers are more likely to be widowed. Again, the children are out of the household, but you can kind of see the profile of boomer families, boomer parent families here. Gen Xers, not too much different, not as much widowhood. You can see millennials. Here's a really interesting call out that I think signals some of the social change that we have been talking about, that Gen Zers are the majority of Gen Z parents are single parents and never married. So they're not getting married as early. They're not having their kids as early. And so those who do have children among those who are 25 and under, only 26% currently are in their first marriage. So that's signals, I think, a really significant shift, even from millennials to Gen Zers. Again, some of this is still just an age because the life stage of people that have kids early. But this is a really important signal that I think things will be changing as we try to minister to parent families down the track. Single parents, single moms, all the more important for us to understand and minister with excellence and compassion and relevance to families across the spectrum. Okay, here is just another great example of what is included in this report, but let's just take a look at what are some of the top challenges that parents talk about. So among all parents of kids under the age of 18, so they still have children in the household, managing financial stress and expenses at 25%. And you even think about some of our social and political environment and just the cost of living and housing. That is the top rated concern from all parents. You'll notice that is the top rated concern, not just overall, but across all of these different segments of single moms, married moms, single dads, married dads. Super important for us to pay attention to managing financial stress and expenses. How do we think about that in terms of the financial asks that we make? How do we think about that in terms of the financial stewardship and the training we provide on some of these topics? Number two, you can see addressing my own mental health and self-care is the second most common thing that parents are concerned about. You can see that single moms and married moms are very likely to say that is true, and married dads are actually also likely to say that. Providing a safe and stable home was the second most common thing among single dads. Feeling I'm a burden if I ask for help. You can see that is most common among single moms, helping my children with academic challenge. That was true of married moms. Maintaining a strong relationship with others in my life was true of single dads. And helping my children with academic challenges was third most on the list of married dads. So lots of really great data in the research that helps you understand the specific experiences of particular kinds of moms and dads at different ages of their children, et cetera. So we'd really encourage you to take a look at that. Okay, so my last little thing I want to talk through is a hopeful part of our reporting was focusing in on flourishing. So the John 10:10 vision that Jesus has come that we might have life and life abundant, a flourishing life, that godliness has promised not just for this life, but also for the life to come. And so how the church can help families flourish. We think in addition to having this great data on the demographics and experiences of family, we also want to propose in this research a way of helping families grow in their resilience and in their flourishing. So here is one way you could do that. We propose in this research that there is a metric for resilience. We're looking specifically at married parents and those who say it's very true that they share values, that they have healthy communication, that they have an emotional connection, and they have community engagement as a family. You can see here that when we look at the traits of resilience, we're just going to kind of do a quick calculation across all those four areas. And again, you can see them back there on the bottom there: shared values, healthy communication, emotional connection, community engagement down the bottom right. And we categorize people as resilient families if they had four of those traits, all four of those traits. Those who are stable had three of the traits, and then struggling and fragile. You see that we categorized 36% of all adults who are married and have children as fragile. And it's very important, obviously, that we pay attention at both ends of the spectrum. What can we learn from exemplars and the resilient? That's the 14%, but also how do we help people across these different categories? And people don't stay in one sort of predetermined category. They can move up in this, or they can move down in this scale of resilience. And again, we're trying to propose a framework, a model for how it is that you might think about ministering, not just to married families. The particular traits here are specific to marriage and the partnership, but how do we help families across all of these different stages of life experience resilience? It's not just that we sort of respond, but we actually lean in with a framework for how to live the resurrection life, a life to the full. All right, so I love this little quote from Tolstoy who says, "Happy families are all alike, resilient families may be all alike, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." And we did see a little bit of the evidence in this research of that the things that are dysfunctions are challenges because they are very unique and they're vexing problems for families to solve. But let me just show you some really cool correlations in the data. And I'm just about done. I have just like two more slides to show you. So hang in there. But so responsibility and reconciliation across family profiles. Again, this is among U.S. adults who are married and have children. We're trying to zoom in on that specific part to give you just a picture of the kind of impact you can have as a minister, as a church, as a community who's interested in helping families to thrive. And so look at these. These don't even have anything to do with faith. Really, a lot of our, go back here to these four characteristics. This is not even like a faith-oriented profile. This is about just resilience in general. There's not a lot of faith-oriented language. Faith is important and essential to flourishing, but it is not. You can also flourish even if you're not a believer. And so these are four characteristics that Christians or non-Christians could have. And notice that when we look at resilient married families, look at the real difference that you see across the board in all of these practices, the percent who say they're very true. Again, people could just be misrepresenting some of this. Data is only as good as the honesty that people reflect. But notice that I make an effort to apologize when I've hurt the feelings of a family member at 90%, compared to 76% of those who are stable, 66% of those who are struggling, and only 43% of those married with children who are fragile say they make an effort to apologize. I take responsibility for my actions no matter the consequences. I pray for members of my family. I regularly think about how my actions affect my family members, aware of how the behaviors I model impact others. My faith motivates me to be more mindful of my behavior toward others. So again, just a really interesting set of data that shows that resilience matters in the functioning of these households, and what it feels like to be a child in those households, in what it feels like to be in a church filled with resilient households, and also a church where we're not judging people who are in different stages of this sort of resilience track because they don't measure up, but we're actually trying to help model this and give them a picture of what it means to be healthy and whole in Jesus. Interestingly, trauma is universal. So within your current household or family or growing up, have you personally experienced an event or situation that you would consider highly distressing, such as significant personal loss or trauma? And, first of all, I don't know why it's not 100%, because I think all of us have been through some hard things, but this does tell us at least something interesting, which is that even in resilient households, about half say yes. And you can see there's very little difference, which for me is just a really cool verification of the data. It's like people are paying attention to the questions we're asking, and it sounds true. It's accurate to say that it doesn't matter whether you're resilient or not, you're going to experience some trauma in life. And so again, just a kind of a cool way of us verifying that these questions tell us something meaningful. Last bit of data, and then I'll have some conclusions and we can move on. But here is a little bit more faith-oriented picture of these different categories. And again, just notice the massive differences between resilient households and then everyone else. This is one in which you really see an influence, a correlation with faith. But I encourage my children to participate in faith-based activities. My faith influences the way I parent. I use stories and teachings from my faith to guide my children's behavior. Those three in particular have a far-reaching effect among resilient parents. Okay, so just a few conclusions, and then we'll get you on your way. But each person, each family they represent is a masterpiece. Ephesians 2:10. God's created us to be a masterpiece, and He's ordained us to do good works. And so He's created us to do good works as individuals, as members of a context. Singles, widows, they matter so much to Jesus. We need to do even more work to make sure that their voices and their experiences and their hurts and their aspirations and their doubts and their questions are heard. We have to be careful not to just prioritize families or a traditional family unit. We need to invest in the strength of every single person in every single kind of household. And let's orient our ministry to families and to households to help people uncover the beautiful story of grace and redemption to be all that they were made to be. This great study, and our team, we're so proud to give it to you as a gift. These partners, these wonderful ministry partners that we have joined with, it is our effort to try to help give you a picture of what resilience looks like, how we can minister in this very complicated age. Families are so desperate for help. They need help to get through the digital context, to understand the diversity of family experiences, and to bring a biblically informed mindset to this therapeutic moment that we can actually be whole in Christ. Joe, turn it back over to you.
Thanks, David. Wow, there's so much. And what's great is like you shared a lot, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And that's why we're so excited to be able to offer this report with a discount that's special for this audience. So for you who showed up today and watching this webinar, you're going to be rewarded because we're giving you an exclusive special discount. You can find that promo code in the chat. And so be sure to take advantage of that and click on that link, and then you can go share that, and even with your team too. And by the way, we don't have this on the store, but if you want a bulk order, I know like I see some leaders here that are kind of leaders in church networks, denominations, maybe it's for your school or your college, reach out to us. We'll put an email for our customer service. You can reach out for custom orders. We'll give you a bulk discount because I think this is not just good for you individually as leaders, but I think it's good for teams. I think it's good for organizations and networks. So reach out to us if you'd like to make a bulk order as well. Well, hey, like David said, we are going to unpack this. What we love to do at Barna is we like to turn insights into action. So it's not just about the numbers and the stats and the charts. I mean, we like to geek out over that, but we really love to figure out ways to take those insights and help you as leaders and as pastors turn those insights into action. And to help us do that, we've brought on a panel of experts and practitioners and pastors. So I'm going to introduce them, and one by one, they're going to come off of video, or they're going to start their video and come off of mute. But I want to introduce to you first Ron Deal. Ron is a best-selling author. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he's one of the nation's leading voices on healthy relationships and blended families. He's the president of Smart Step Families and the senior director of Family Life Blended. So he's one of our core partners. He represents one of our core partners in Family Life, and he's authored many books. In fact, he just came out with one with his wife called The Mindful Marriage. So Ron, welcome. Also, we're bringing on Jenny Wong Clayville. Jenny's a good friend of mine, and she's an executive pastor and teaching pastor at Nova Community Church in Northern Virginia. She has over 2 decades of pastoral experience. She also is on the Propel Women coaching team, so she works with women of all ages in that ministry as well. And then third, we have Reverend Dr. Gabriel Saguero, who is the pastor of the Gathering Place in Orlando. And he's also the founder and president of the National Latino Evangelical Coalition, another one of our partners on this project and this initiative. So Gabriel, he leads thousands of Latino evangelical congregations around the U.S. But what I love about Gabriel too is he's not just a leader of a national movement, but he is the shepherd and pastor of a local congregation as well. So we have a lot of great perspectives. So Ron, Gabriel, Jenny, thanks for being here with us today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, I know there was a lot that was shared from David, and we can unpack that. We could probably take the rest of our webinar and unpack that, but I just want to just maybe hit some highlights from the research from what you saw. So whether it was from what David shared or your vantage point in ministry, what is one shift that you have noticed in family life that churches need to pay attention to right now? And tell us a little bit about why. So I'm going to start with Jenny, and then we'll go to Gabriel, and then we'll end with Ron on this one.
Yeah, it's funny because you say
a panel of experts, and I'm kind of just like, I just observe and I just watch people kind of like in a creepy way. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. But from my experience of just watching people and just sitting with them, families, I think we covered this, David covered this really well. Like families aren't what we're used to seeing. I'm a Gen Xer, so I see like Leave It to Beaver. Those are the things I'm thinking of. And so they're just more unconventional in many ways, and there's not a one way or another kind of a thing. And so I think a lot of what families are like right now is just really how and how they flourish is how we meet them, how we see them, how we talk to them. And there's no necessarily like, oh, this is how it should be, but how can we draw you closer to a relationship with God as a family unit every day, every week, instead of like, oh, let's just put you back into this tunnel of what a good Christian family looks like. And so that's kind of like what I've been seeing more and more of. And some of my background is my parents were divorced ever since I was 7. So I come from exactly a lot of where these studies are coming from. And for all intents and purposes, I should not have made it to become a pastor or even like thrive in any way, shape, or form. And all three of us girls from that family are believers. And so, God is just bigger than all of this. All of the studies or all of the stats, I would say the stats are important, but also God and the Holy Spirit are so much bigger than all of it. So I guess I'll
Yeah.
just start with that.
No, it's good, Jenny. It's good just like what the stats and what the research helps us do is to be able to see people. Like we like to
Right.
say behind every stat is a story, every stat is a soul, every stat is a person.
Hmm.
And so that's what it's supposed to reveal. And what you said is really true. Like the first step is to see people for who they are and where they're at. And what we see in the research is uh, there's all kinds of shapes and sizes and expressions of the family today. So great. Thanks for pointing that out. So
Of course.
Gabrielle, what are you seeing? What's like one shift that you'd want to point us to right now?
Well, I want to echo what Jenny said, and I want to say two things. I'll use two Ds: diversity of families. So blended families, single parent homes, divorced families, sandwich families that have the children and the grandparents in the house. So that's the first shift. I think we're more aware of the great diversity of families. They were always there. I think there's a greater awareness.
Mhm.
The second thing is demand. The second D, demand. Time demand, financial demand. In the survey, we saw that that was one of the highest worries. Whether you're a single parent, married parent, single mom, single dad, married family, the demands, financial demands and time demands. You know, I've heard a lot of parents say, "Pastor, I'm Uber. That's what I am. I take my kid from this to that to the other thing to the so I think the great diversity of families is one of the trends, an awareness of that diversity and how that impacts how we are family. And the second thing is the demand, the financial demand and the kind of time demands. Those are big trends that as a pastor I've had to respond to. And as a father, right? I have two sons, and the financial demand and the time demand has been a thing. And also as a son of a family who was a foster care family. And so I see the diversity and the demand.
Yeah, so you experienced first time on a lot of different fronts, and yeah, it's great. And by the way, we saw a lot of what you just said in the chat earlier when we opened up with that question about demand. So, hey, Ron, how about you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so I would just summarize the whole survey as the non-traditional family is the new traditional family, and the church needs to wake up to that. Let me just press in a little bit and say, and because of that, family context matters. Not all marriage is created the same. Not all parenting situations are created the same, but historically in the church, we've had a one-size-fits-all suggestion, materials, and resources for couples and parents. And I really think we've got to retool and rethink and start speaking to the specific context in which people live. Like one of the things that stood out to me in the survey was if you add up those numbers on that marital status page, 53% of the parents with kids under age 18 have children who are likely moving either between two homes or have a step parent in one of those homes or will have a step parent in their life. That means half of parents are wrestling with co-parenting situations. They're trying to figure out and navigate parent step parent combinations. And when was the last time your church spoke to any of that? When was the last time you in your children's ministry or your student ministry, talk to kids about life between homes and loyalty conflicts and all the things that go along with that. That's just not something that we normally address, and we have got to start doing that. Otherwise, we are not really speaking to the people. I mean, we're talking to somebody who's not in the room, is what it amounts to. And we've got to do a better job to be able to do that. One last concrete example of that is premarital counseling. The church has not changed how we do premarital counseling in 50 years. But we constantly working with couples who are getting married with 5, 6, 9 kids. The record is 19 kids, by the way. And imagine giving that couple the same premarital program that you do with a couple getting married for the first time in their mid-20s. It's really ridiculous when you say it out loud. We created a resource called Preparing to Blend a few years ago. We just thought churches would snatch it up because, hey, everybody's doing premarital counseling. And, you know, we basically have to give it away because we're not willing as a group to retool, to upgrade 2.0 in how we do premarital counseling. It's time. We've got to get this figured out, and we've got to get equipped.
Yeah, and Ron, by the way, that resource is great, and if somebody from the Family Life team here can put that in the chat, I think that'd be really helpful. But Ron, I want to come back to you because I want to get really practical because you really did a good job of kind of elevating, articulating the need. Are there any practical things you can think of, like how can church teams, how can ministry teams actually practically do this from week to week, better serve these non-traditional, traditional families?
Yeah, so 3 quick suggestions, and believe me, I could go on for a really long time, but let me just boil it down to a couple of practical things. We need to start using language that connects to people's lived experience. If we make assumptions about our audience that doesn't connect to them, then we inadvertently say to them, we're not talking to you, this is not your home, you don't belong here. Quick illustration, heard somebody say recently, a single parent, who said at their church, they announced that registration for the church retreat has started and we're happy that we have 25 couples signed up. Guess what that says to all the single people never married and all the single parents in the room? This is not for you. Grieving parents, stepmoms, Mother's Day is the worst day of the year for them because we make the assumption that every mom in the room is happy and this is a happy place for every mom. But there's a lot of uncertainty in a stepmom's heart about whether she should stand up when they say, if you're here, we want to honor you. And so it becomes an awkward place and she just doesn't want to be there and then they don't go. It's as simple as using language that incorporates this experience. So from the pulpit, we've been saying for years, just as you're welcoming people, hey, if you're a mother, today's your day. If you're a stepmom, if you're a foster mom, if you're an adoptive mom, if you're a grandmother, if you're a woman serving in our children's ministry program, we are so grateful you are here. Just say the word and move on. It communicates, we see you, and that really goes a long way for people to begin to think, all right, this is my home, this is where I need to be. Another quick example, add sidebars to your general marriage and family teaching. Preachers talking about marriage one Sunday, just say something about now, if you're in a blended family marriage, it might be a little bit different. If you're doing a parenting class, frequently I'll say something like, now, let me just say, if you're a foster parent, adoptive parent, or a step parent, what I just said might not work for you, and here's why. And you take 2 minutes to explain to that part of your audience what's unique about their situation. That's all you're doing is a 2-minute sidebar, and then you come back to the rest of your material. That does wonders to say to people, we see you, we've got more, come up and ask us. And by the way, that funnels them towards, yes, we got more information, here's a resource, we have a small group for you. Whatever it is, you just created an opportunity because people felt seen in that moment. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it goes back to what Jenny was saying. That first important step is help people feel seen. And what you're saying, get really practical with that. It's the language we use. And so, you know, Gabriel, one of the ways we can help people feel seen is to really be able to call out the challenges that they're facing. I think the research helps us understand some of those challenges. But I'd love for you, like in your role as senior pastor at the Gathering place, like what are you seeing firsthand? Like what would be some of those challenges that you would say, oh yeah, I'm double clicking on that because I'm seeing that in a real way in our church. And then what are some things you guys are doing to confront and kind of encourage parents and families within those challenges?
Well, thanks for asking. And I should say, I have the advantage of that I co-lead with Jeanette. And so they hear voices in surround sound. So they have a male lead pastor and a female lead pastor. And a mom and a dad, and so I should acknowledge that that helps us quite a bit, um, get different voices in on it. I think the biggest challenge has been two big challenges. One is the financial challenge, like especially if somebody gets laid off or somebody loses their job. And so what we've done, because we're looking for practical tools, is we not only have a benevolence ministry where the church gives benevolence, we have a budgeting ministry. And we help families. We sit with them. We have a financial expert that helps financial plan. And that could be a single mom, a single dad, that could be very common in our community, grandparents raising grandchildren. So they're semi-retired and they're living off Social Security. And so the financial challenge is not just benevolence, but also budgeting and helping giving people the resources. The other thing is mental health, especially not just parents that are stretched, but children who have a lot of incoming, whether it's social media, I mean, it's a whole host of things that we could spend a whole webinar just on the mental health of families. And so what we do practically is we partner with mental health professionals. Actually, one of our mental health professionals is on this webinar from our church. And we say, hey, look, the church can bring you pastoral care and spiritual care, but we also have Christian mental health professionals and community health professionals that can walk alongside you, especially if you feel in despair that you don't have enough resources. And the last thing I talk about is that there are particular ministries. And so in our family ministries, it's not just married couples. We have single parents, single mom, single dad. I have a friend, associate pastor, who he was a single dad for many years. And so we try to cover the kind of think about this. And I saw one of the questions. 43% of Latino families are single parent households. If there's 69.5 million Latinos, we're talking almost about 30 million. In the African American community, it's even higher than that. And so we are very, very intentional about saying this is not just an addendum or a footnote. This is, as Ron says, the norm. This is normative now, right? This is the new kind of the blended family, the single parent. And so we preach about that. And the good thing is, Joe and others, is that the Bible is full of those examples. Hagar and Ishmael, a single mom with financial stress in Genesis 16, right? Or people who are immigrant families, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, right? And so the Bible itself is full of these multiple families. So it's not new to human history, but oftentimes we've ignored it. So we bring the kind of theological, pastoral, but then we bring on the practical help, financial planning, mental health professionals. It's
Yeah.
both and.
Yeah, and that's confirmed in how we approach the research. Our methodology was, in that section was we wanted to measure the whole life of the person through those domains of human flourishing. And so you see, Gabriel, you're talking about this relationship between financial flourishing, faith flourishing, mental, emotional health. They all come together, and we need to start discipling our people holistically if we want them to be holistically healthy. And so I think that's a great point. Jenny, we know, and you and I have talked about this before, but like we know that like out of the outpouring of our own journeys as pastors and leaders comes our ability to
Mhm.
lead our congregations well. So I would love for you to kind of share a little bit about like how why is that important for us to recognize our own journeys as parents, as spouses, as single parents? Perhaps, there's a lot of single parent pastors and church leaders
Yeah.
and Christian leaders out there. Tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about like how are you navigating that? How are you staying healthy and whole, dealing with your own stuff within your own household, and then
Yeah.
also able to shepherd other people through their stuff?
Yeah. I'll say I'm really fortunate. My husband is so supportive, and he's not a pastor. He's a pastor's husband. And so there's different tensions in that too, not in us, but like just how people view us. And our boys are pretty much grown, 20 and 17. And so it was harder when we were younger. Again, being coming from a family, and it's out there, but my childhood was pretty traumatic. Not just from the church, but my mom, for all, I mean, I'll just say it. She was abusive in many ways, a loving father. Um, was not, didn't seem loving. Trying to navigate that, fortunately, God put a lot of people in my life that were other people's parents, and I could kind of glean off of that. And so a lot of my, and realizing, oh, we say it takes a village, but because we're Western culture, we're very individualized, right? And so
Mhm.
understanding that it does really actually take a village. And a big reason to why I am a pastor and why I do what I do is because I'm trying to partner people in places. I mean, I am not trying to lead that is assuming everyone think more than not having experienced some sort of trauma or disconnect. And so I think what mentioned briefly, continual stacking of oppression, or now you're a single mom and you are Black or brown. Now you are also in a lower socioeconomic status. As it stacks, things, we bring in resources. I think Gabriel says something really great about having counseling. So we're not just throwing people anywhere. These are people we've talked to. These are people that we have interviewed in some way, shape, or form. Care for the hearts and the souls of our community. And so that's super, super important. I think this is what's most important as leaders in the church, as the ministry leaders. We need to practice what we're saying. You can't just say to someone, here's some counselors, if you yourself don't go get counseling. So I think it does start in the house. And so as leaders, with your therapy, because you know what? This is all coming in on you, right? So my
Mhm.
husband and I, we check in with a therapist together every, and rough, we go back. Things are going, and so you're gonna be towards that is right. And so,
Jenny, I think we're losing you. I think
uh,
your
that's,
connection's a little off. Can you hear us?
oh no. Yes, I can
Yeah,
hear
we've
you.
been
Can you hear
hearing
me now?
about, I would say about 79% of what you said we've heard.
Okay, good.
So we got most of it, but
Oh
you
my
have
goodness,
been,
that's terrible.
no, it's okay. But yeah, just in case you keep getting
See
caught off there.
what we could do here. Internet,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
technology is so fun. I
exactly.
might be just talking really fast too, so maybe that might be.
No, but I think we got most of what you said, Jenny, and I think it's really important for us. You know, you talked about this village, like that, which, by the way, for church leaders, Christian leaders, that can be tough. So we have to be proactive to pursue a village because leading can be lonely. And it's sometimes it's hard to kind of feel like you can be vulnerable as a parent, as a spouse, a married person, as a single parent, maybe, you know, whatever your family situation can be. So I think it's really important for us to find a tribe, find a village where we can be safe, like a safe space to be vulnerable. So, you know, it's going to take some work, but we need to pursue that as Christian leaders and as church leaders. By the way, we're going to run out of time for Q&A. I wanted to have some time for open Q&A, but I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat. I'm going to sum this up with one of the questions actually we had prepared to talk about, which is engaging singles and single parents in our churches. Okay, so the research overwhelmingly has this theme that single parent households, and even just singles in general, that there's a big disconnect with how they feel like they can fit in and they feel seen and understood in today's churches. Let's get real practical, and we'll try to keep our answers kind of short here and sweet. But what are some practical things that churches can do to engage singles and single parents more effectively? I'm going to start with you, Ron, and then go to Gabriel, and then hopefully Jenny's connection clears up, and we'll go to you.
There are great resources online. I know everybody knows that, but you just got to find them. Single
Mhm.
Mom University has tons of online content. Singleparentministries.org has a quick start guide about how to do single parent ministry. We'll throw those links into the chat. Family Life Blended, we offer a certificate course in blended family ministry and an in-person event once a year and 80 hours of online video material that's available to to you absolutely today. I mean, there's all kinds of good things that are available. One of the things I tell pastors is take somebody to lunch. Take a few single parents, a few blended families, a few foster families, and start asking questions. How do you experience our church? Where do you fit? What's going on for your kids? What's it like when they can only come once a month or every other week and sit in Sunday school? If you have a curriculum, by the way, that is sequential for children, they automatically feel behind all the time and they don't want to go. And then they complain to mom and she's like, yeah, you're right, I don't feel comfortable either. And they're not showing up. I mean, the numbers bore that out. 20% maybe of single parent families are attending. We find that with blended families as well. It's so important. Sit down and talk and listen. One more practical thing. My church here in Little Rock, Arkansas has a Christmas mall every year. And we invite people who need it. We let them decide who that is. But they get to come and they have the dignity of shopping, greatly reduced prices. Some bring their children, some don't. It gets wrapped and handed to them before they walk out. And then you do that sort of service project. And then you invite them to the small group that's starting in January for single parents, or the small group that's starting for blended families, or the money thing like Gabe was talking about, the training that's going to take place. Serve and then follow up. Serve and follow up and connect.
Yeah, that's good. Gabe, how about you?
Look, I think one thing we have to talk about that has worked for me as a pastor and that works for me as a parishioner on the receiving end, as a disciple of Jesus, intentional space creation. You have to create intentional spaces for single parents, for blended families. And that begins in that in space is hearing, right? Empathetic listening is in high demand and low supply. Right? And sometimes we create ministries that are responding to questions no one is asking. And so when you create intentional spaces where people can share not just their challenges, because here's another thing we need to talk about: single parents, blended families, sandwich families. They don't just bring challenges, they bring potential giftings. They can teach you how to manage multiple things and juggle things in ways that many of us couldn't even imagine. And so the intentional space is where you hear not just the challenges they're facing to come alongside them, but the giftings they bring to the larger community. So create intentional space. The second thing is, and here, I'm a Pentecostal preacher. I'm an Assemblies of God pastor in Orlando, Florida, born in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey Rican. Preaching matters. The proclamation that reflects the inclusivity of the reality of families we serve, but also the inclusivity of how Scripture itself presents families. I think that preaching matters, and there has to be an intentionality around both creating space and ministries and preaching. And then the third thing is integration. Integrate them into the life of the church that doesn't feel haphazard or footnotish. Right? Families are not a footnote. Resilient families, resilient communities, resilient societies. 43% of Latino families are single parent households. Greater number than that in the African American community. These are not footnotes. This is the great breadth of people God and Christ has called us to serve. So intentional space, intentional proclamation, and integration.
That's great.
Joe.
3 eyes, true preacher.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to jump in there real quick because Gabe just says something that sparks something in me. Holly Crane is a friend of mine at singleparentministries.org, suggests that you take single young adults and invite them to serve the single parents. Because so many of those singles young adults today, as your data showed, grew up in a complex family dynamic of some sort, often a single parent home, blended family home or something. And now they get a chance to serve another family that was like theirs. Her comment was, that is so therapeutic for them. It draws them in, it connects the generations, and it helps people serve one another. That's a great way to as Gabe was talking about, get them involved in ministry. Not just something we do for them, but something we invite them to.
Yep, that's great. Great word, both of you guys. And Jenny, we're out of time, so I actually want you, if you don't mind, just share one encouraging word. Take about 60 seconds to do that. And then can you just say a quick prayer for the leaders here today? And then I'm going to close us out.
Yeah, I think I don't have actually anything to add to what both Ron and Gabriel said. I would just say, from my own experience, proximity is really all that matters. Proximity, tells people that you care, and not showing up and telling them what to feel, but actually stopping and asking them questions. Keep asking questions, because I wonder when was the last time they were asked a question and you were truly listening. And so just sitting with them in the hard stuff. You know, Job's friends did a really great job until they opened their mouth. Just keep your mouth closed. You know, just sit, just be with them. So I think that's what ministry and that's what community and care looks like. But yeah, I think if anything, just for all of you, step into more of what you're called to do. The Holy Spirit will reveal it to you. I know that you can do it. And all of us have to do it because it can't all fall on one person. But
That's great.
yeah, let me pray for us then. All right. God, I thank you so much for just the opportunity for all of us to be together. I just pray that you would continue to convict in us the things that will draw us back to you, so that the least of these, the people that feel most forgotten and most ignored and most isolated, see you. God, we thank you that we get to do this. We get to live out your kingdom calling. I just pray that you would overwhelm us with your presence and make the way in front of us. We trust you. We love you. We thank you for this time and just this incredible resource for all of us, so that we can be better for your world and for your kingdom. And it's in Jesus' name I pray all this. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ron, Gabrielle, Jenny, for being here. Thanks, David, for bringing some great research to us. I just also want to just thank the Barna team, Daniel Copeland, our VP of Research, Elise Youngblood, one of our main writers, and the rest of the team for putting this great resource together. Again, we want to remind you, we'll put this in the chat with the special promo code. You can get a special discount, 20% discount on this brand new report, The State of Today's Family. Take advantage of it, share it, pray over it even, because I think God has a lot to reveal to all of us as church leaders, as Christian leaders, about how we can minister to today's family in more effective ways. We're cheering you on. We're with you. We love you guys, and just consider it a privilege to serve you in what you get to do. So on behalf of Barna and our great Flourishing Families partners, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here to today's webinar, and we'll see you next time.